Okay, having discussed about sustainability, now let us look at it. What is meant by this wastewater treatment? So this wastewater treatment is basically, wastewater is nothing but there are different versions of wastewater, but in my current lecture I am restricting my discussion to only domestic wastewater. Domestic wastewater is completely different from industrial wastewater. The water produced of its primary use of domestic use is called as domestic wastewater. So this domestic wastewater, what are the problems? Because this wastewater is nothing but used water, it is not fresh water, it is the fresh water after its primary use, that is nothing but wastewater. So this wastewater generated after the primary use of fresh water, it is expected to have lot of impurities, and these impurities we can categorize into two, or broadly into three categories. One is organic matter, inorganic matter, inert matter. There are basically three types of impurities which are present in this wastewater. One is organic fraction, inorganic matter, and inert matter. These three components happen to be there. Now, what is the problem of these impurities presenting in the used water? These causes undesirable health effects on to the different people who gets in contact with this wastewater. Now, having these impurities in wastewater, our philosophy for wastewater treatment is something like to remove these various contaminants. They may present in different phases, they may present as dissolved, they may present as suspended, they may present as colloidal. In any form it can present. These contaminants which are present in wastewater are simply, it can also be called as sewage, so as to produce an effluent and sludge. I am calling something called effluent, I am calling something to be sludge, because this wastewater, as I told you, impurities. So these fraction of impurities in fresh wastewater will be around 0.02%, that is 99.1%, approximately 99.9%. 99.9% is water, 0.1 to 0.01% will be solids. The impurities present in wastewater to the tune of 0.1 to 0.01%. So because of this mere very small fraction present in the wastewater, this wastewater poses a threat to the society, a threat to the environment, if it is disposed of without imparting proper treatment. So we need to remove these impurities from wastewater. When I am removing this wastewater, these impurities from the wastewater, I get something called treated wastewater, that I can be easily termed as an effluent. And as per the principle of law of conservation, if I am removing impurities, I cannot completely make them invisible. So these impurities I have to concentrate. So the concentrated impurities which are removed from this sewage are called as sludge. So I will be producing two streams from one stream. One stream is nothing but wastewater. The two streams which are derived from wastewater are effluent, which is nothing but treated wastewater. The another stream is like a liquid with high concentration of solids, which is called as sludge. So these two streams we are producing. These two streams we have to be disposed of into the environment, such that both the streams does not cause any health hazards or nuisance. So the impurities which are present in the wastewater, as it is, if you want to dispose them into environment, they are likely to cause health hazards and nuisance. So we have to transform the impurities from the current stage to a stage where They will not cause any undesirable effects. That is the first thing. Second thing, the 99.9% of water which is present in the sewage also to be brought to the level of reusability such that that treated water can be put to the best usage. So that is the philosophy of wastewater. As I told you that there are different contaminants which are present in this domestic sewage. As I told you, three categories. What are those categories? One is organic, inorganic, and inert. And if I want to reclassify them in the order of, in the degree of its impact on the environment, I can be classifying them as biodegradable organics, suspended solids, pathogens, and nutrients. Biodegradable organics refers to these are the organic material which generally present in feces, urine, and so on. These organic matter is susceptible for biodegradable action. Susceptible for biodegradation means these organic matter is influenced by microbial degradation. Like this organic matter, if it is present in the sewage, this organic matter is amenable for oxidation by the microorganisms into stable end products. Actually, there is nothing wrong if this organic matter is biodegraded by these microorganisms into stable end products. It is a good phenomenon. There is nothing wrong. But what is the problem in this degradation of this? What is the problem of this organic matters degradation in sewage? The pathway wise, it is a good step. It is a natural healing step. It is a natural remediation step by naturally present by microorganisms of oxidizing the organic matter present in sewage. But here the issue is in the process of this oxidation, these microorganisms tend to use the oxygen present in the wastewater. Once this oxygen depletes beyond certain level, then the sewage becomes septic. Then instead of aerobic organisms to take part, the anaerobic and anoxic organisms will take a lead role, leading to septic and stale sewage and causing lot of odorous or obnoxious gases to be produced. So that is the problem of this presence of this biodegradable organics in the sewage, which we want to remove them in a controlled conditions. That is why we don't want these biodegradable organics matter directly to your natural water bodies, and we don't want the bodies to be getting degraded or lose its quality. So we want to treat these biodegradable organics in a controlled conditions where we artificially supply oxygen to these microorganisms and see that these impurities are removed in a controlled conditions in a much environmental friendly manner. The second type of impurities, as I discussed earlier, are suspended solids. If they present in wastewater, suspended solids, they don't have much health effects, but presence of suspended solids is a problem because it imparts turbidity. It won't give much good look to the water, and having suspended solids, everybody will fear that use of this particular water because of impurities which they can see it clearly. So this has to be removed. Not only from the physical point of view, these suspended solids also likely to damage the appurtenances like pumps, machinery, which we likely to use in case of pumping or any these things. Next is pathogens. This pathogens means is a class of microorganisms which are likely to cause any diseases or health problems are called as pathogens. So these pathogens are nothing but microorganisms which can cause health impacts, are called as pathogens. So these pathogens are likely to cause any diseases. That is why, so we want to get rid of these pathogens from directly entering into natural water bodies. The next class of impurities are nutrients. Today, if you see our urban bodies, but urban centers like Bangalore or Hyderabad or any urban cities, any places, if you see any natural lakes, the water happen to be completely greenish. The reason being, even though the lakes, they get treated water from the wastewater treatment plants, these wastewater treatment plants, which were designed around 30 years back, they were designed to remove only carbonaceous organic matter. They were not into the removal of nitrogenous or particular nutrients from this wastewater. Ultimately, these nutrients were neither fully removed or they are only removed partially, not meeting the discharge requirements. So these wastewater, these nutrients happen to be still part of the treated wastewater, leading to these lakes, causing these lakes to be subjected with excessive growth of algae, causing to algal blooms and finally having problems in these lakes. So these are the impurities or main contaminants which are present in urban sewage. Now, if I want to remove them, first I need to know how they are present in the wastewater. These impurities, as I mentioned in the 4 classes, they may present in 3 physical forms. They can be presented as suspended, they can be presented as dissolved, they can be presented as colloidal phase. Colloidal phase is an intermediate stage between suspended and dissolved. And among whatever it is suspended, certain fraction, if you just leave it for some time, they are able to settle. Certain time in the sense, we want to treat the wastewater in a reasonable period of time. Because if you look at it in a day, almost all we produce sewage, mostly in entire 24 hours day cycle, we produce wastewater maximum on an average, in about 6 hours we produce wastewater. So the philosophy is here, something like around 6 to 8 hours, we want to treat a batch of wastewater produced. So in the entire 8 hours, which is generally given to treat a batch of wastewater, we cannot devote the entire 8 hours to remove only suspended solids. So we give a time of approximately 1 to 2 hours to remove the settleable fraction. So the fraction of solids which can be removed by just keeping an idle time of 1 or 2 hours, such that the settleable fraction is removed from the wastewater, raw wastewater. Those type of solids we call it as suspended solids. Even after keeping it idle for 1.5 hours, certain fraction of wastewater, certain fraction of the suspended matter is not removed. Such a fraction is called as non-settleable. And always, as an engineer, we should try to use the systems. As I told you in the beginning of my lecture, I told the wastewater treatment system should be sustainable. Sustainable in the sense, here I am reiterating my statement, whenever you design a system, if the design principles, whatever you are using in planning a system, if those principles follow the nature's principles, then the amount of resources required to treat the system will be almost all minimum. So we should be always plan very close to the nature. So settling is a gravitational force. Here we don't require any extra energy. So whenever we plan a wastewater treatment system, we have to plan such a way that these systems does not take much resources. So what I mean to tell is, so wherever it is possible, we will use these physical forces, something like.
Sir, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, tell me.
Sorry to interrupt, sir. Someone has shared the screen now. Archana Mala, the participant Archana
Yeah.
Mala, he had seen the screen. Madam, please avoid that. Please pin the speaker screen to avoid misplaces. Please share the screen again, sir. Then you can proceed. I request all the participants to ping the screen of the speaker. I request all the participants to ping the screen of the speaker.
Okay, Dr. Velamani, are you able to see now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Good, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's visible.
Any disturbance in my voice?
No, sir. It was clear.
Okay.
Good.
Okay. So we want to use the principles such that which follows the nature's principle such that they use less resources so that they becomes sustainable. Now the fraction after even by using gravitational force, the which cannot be removed is called as non-settlable. Basically, this non-settlable refers to something called colloidal or dissolved node. And this colloidal dissolve also can be removed by using appropriate principles. I'll be talking about. Now we discussed about what are the different forms of impurities and in which phase they are present, we have discussed. Now to remove these impurities, we'll be having a combination of unit operations and unit processes. Now I'm using a different words here, unit operations. The unit operations basically refers to the use of physical forces. Okay, the use of physical forces which can be used such that the targeted contaminant is being removed. So when I am talking something called unit operation, always refers to I am applying some sort of physical forces. Physical forces, example, gravitational force, centrifugal force, straining, physical straining. These are the examples. Next is unit processes. Unit processes means these are all can bring changes in its chemical composition or even biological composition. Chemical composition means, for example, as I mentioned earlier, there is something called biodegradable organic matter. Biodegradable organic matter means it is an organic matter. It's a complex organic matter. It's a long chain carbon molecules. These long chain carbon molecules are oxidized into CO2 plus H2O. That's all. CO2 plus H2O, little nitrogen and little energy, heat in the form of heat. These are the end products. If I am getting that conversion, I can call it to be a unit process. In that process of converting the long chain carbon molecules into CO2, I also end up in producing several microorganisms. That is called as biosynthesis. This is also called as microbial synthesis. There we are bringing change in the quantity of microorganisms. That is why it is called as biological unit processes. So by using these combinations of see if I use only physical unit operations, by using physical unit operations or physical forces, I may not be able to remove all the type of impurities. As I mentioned here earlier, by using physical unit operations, I may be able to remove the impurities which are suspended or which are settleable in nature. Non-settleable impurities, I may not be able to remove them. So I may have to use the chemical unit processes or biological unit processes to remove the other phases of other types of impurities. Now, what are the different physical unit operations which are popularly available, and among them, how many are sustainable? Let us look at it, this particular table. The screening operation. This is one of the first and foremost operation in any wastewater treatment plants. The screening refers to removal of porous and settleable solids. So the screen, I know for all these processes, what I am mentioning here, most of the processes I am having the design criteria and the typical system layout, how it looks like, different types, modes, everything. I have added pictures in my following slides, which I will be explaining you in detail. Next is comminution, refers to grinding of core solids. Like whatever is there escaping from screening, they may likely to cause some problems to the subsequent units of wastewater treatment systems. So we want to grind them such that they will not be caused any problems to the treatment plants. Sometimes these comminution units are arranged even in sometimes intake wells also, so that they can be, before pumping to treatment plant, they grind all these impurities to the size of our choice, which will not obstruct the flow of sewage to the rest of units. It will not obstruct the connections, piping connections between different units. Next is flow equalization. The flow equalization, basically, we apply this physical unit operation for two purposes. One purpose is to offset the peak flows. Whenever we get the sewage in a high flow or excessive flow regimes, particularly during monsoon or during dairy variations also, in the morning and evening time, we may get the maximum wastewater generated. If we leave this entire wastewater to the all units, some of the units are designed for average flow. They may not be able to handle such flows. So we want to offset or protect the different wastewater treatment components. That is why we use this flow equalization. So flow equalization we use for two purposes. One is to offset the excessive flows, and sometimes we also use equalization to normalize the concentration of effluents also. Like, for example, we use water morning time for washrooms and bathing, and rest of the day we may use for cooking and all, which may produce very low quality of impurities or very less impurities in the wastewater. But in the morning, the wastewater contains the maximum amount of impurities. So we want to make this entire impurities distributed in the entire volume. So we use this flow equalization. That is why equalization of flow and mass loadings, we use this particular unit operation. Next is mixing. Mixing is nothing but, mixing is also a part of flow equalization, but it itself can be an option. Sometimes this mixing may not be a problem in case of domestic sewage, but in case of industrial sewage, if you are getting wastewater of highly alkaline or highly acidic, we may have to mix them with appropriate chemicals such that are other matching agents, such that their quality is maintained and they can be treatable. Next is flocculation, is another physical unit operation, which is nothing but aggregation of small particles into larger particles, which is generally in case of water treatment, may not be a case of wastewater treatment. And sedimentation is a process of removing the settlable solids from a wastewater using different phases. Like sedimentation is used before biological treatment and after biological treatment. So before biological treatment, we call it as primary sedimentation. After biological treatment, we call it as secondary sedimentation. Whereas the primary sedimentation refers to the removal of readily settleable organic matter, whereas the secondary sedimentation refers to the removal of bioflux produced in the secondary treatment, refers to secondary sedimentation. Next, flotation is the process of removing lighter organic particles from a wastewater. Next is filtration. This filtration refers to the removal of fine residual suspended solids. Generally, this filtration is not part of wastewater treatment, except in some cases we may use something called trickling filters, which is a secondary biological unit process. That unit process, even though we are naming it to be a secondary biological unit processes, that unit processes also incorporates some physical unit operation. That is, filtration is also a job that is done by trickling filter. So we can say that even though it is a unit processes, the name is given unit process because majority of this unit is responsible for removal of dissolved and colloidal organic matter. That's why it is called as unit process. But even though it is called as unit process, it is still doing the job of filtration. So we can partially, it is doing the job of filtration. Next is micro screening. This is generally we use as a tertiary treatment process where the residual suspended solids or algae or the microorganisms which are leaving the secondary clarifier without getting settled can be removed using micro screening. So these are the different physical unit operations. Now from this my explanation you would have understood the unit operations, not that we use only before biological treatment. So some of these unit operations we also end up in using at different stages of wastewater treatment systems. Now coming to chemical unit processes, there are different processes. See, whatever I am discussing now does not mean that all processes or all operations we use in all sewage treatment plants, not that. So based on the investment, area available, type of wastewater, type of your treated water quality, and what is the social acceptability, what is the economical stage or economical level of the people who are ready to pay taxes for the systems. Based on all these factors, we will design such systems, and accordingly we make these components to be available. Now coming to this chemical unit processes, the one thing is chemical precipitation, which you already know, like removal of phosphorus or enhancement of suspended solids removal in primary sedimentation is an example of chemical precipitation. Gas transfer refers to additional removal of gases. Example, aeration in aeration tanks refers to a gas transfer. Or even applying of chlorine gas for disinfection refers to gas transfer. Next is adsorption. This is nothing but organics not removed by conventional and chemical methods, and biological methods can be removed. Adsorption, for example, volatile organic compounds, they cannot be removed even by simple activated surgery process or secondary biological treatment systems. So we want to use extra systems as a part of tertiary treatment systems to remove some of these type of chemicals. As I told you, disinfection is a type of gas transfer. This is basically used to for the destruction of disease-causing organisms. Next is dechlorination, because during disinfection we apply chlorine, and to remove this excess chlorine, otherwise this excess chlorine causes other health effects. So we want to remove this excess chlorine. So that process is called as dechlorination. That dechlorination basically refers to removal of excess chlorine. Now coming to various biological unit processes, we can classify them as aerobic, anaerobic, and anoxic processes based on the type of fundamental mechanism which is being used, which is also called as metabolic pathway. Metabolic pathway means what is the chain of chemical reactions or biological reactions which are expected to remove the majority fraction of impurities from a given batch of wastewater. So if oxygen supply is plentifully available, if the long chain carbon molecules, organic matter, is simply converted into CO2 plus H2O, we call it as aerobic system. So this type of degradation happens in the presence of aerobic microorganisms. That's why these are called as aerobic systems. And aerobic systems, anaerobic systems, anoxic systems, these three are available, but aerobic anaerobic systems are capable of doing the same job, but two different types of microorganisms are available. Now we have a choice to use aerobic organisms, anaerobic organisms. Both systems has their own process, pros and cons. Aerobic organisms, if I use in a system, whatever, for example, if you see here, my right side, if you see my whatever I mentioned here, I think my markings are also clear. You are able to see markings? Dr. Velavani, are you able to see my markings?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So these are the uses. Whether I use aerobic or anaerobic, if I look at it, all are capable of removing all these impurities. But which one I use? Which one I choose? I choose aerobic, anaerobic. That depends on various factors. So I will elaborate these factors with reference to later. I'm having a summary slide where I'll be telling about when I choose aerobic, when I choose anaerobic, and what circumstances. I'll be elaborating them. So whether I use, and next is anoxic. I did not mention here, this anoxic systems, they won't remove the entire carbonaceous BOD material, but this anoxic are responsible for this particular fraction. What is that? The removal of the nutrients, basically nitrogen matter. We use this anoxic. Anoxic means the oxygen combined with nitrogen, that is called as anoxic. Whereas aerobic means the pure oxygen, that is free oxygen, which is present in the water, which is present in the wastewater in the form of dissolved oxygen. Whereas anaerobic systems work purely in the absence of, complete absence of oxygen. So then such a systems are called as anaerobic systems. And sometimes if I want to remove all these impurities, neither aerobic systems nor anaerobic systems nor anoxic systems are capable of removing all these impurities satisfactory to the disposal levels. So I may have to use sometimes the combined processes. I may have to use a combination of aerobic, anaerobic, anoxic, or aerobic anoxic or anaerobic anoxic in a sequential manner, such that I will be able to remove all these impurities satisfactorily, such that my treated effluent meets the disposal criteria. Now, if I want to treat that, then obviously I need to have something in my hand which is called as, or the key one. For example, for our entire body to function, there is one unit which takes the entire energy and as well as metabolic activities possible in our body, that is called as heart. This heart pumps the blood to the entire body in our human body. Similarly, in a sewage treatment plant, if I want to remove the major fraction of impurities, I will have something called as a reactor. The reactor facilitates for certain. The reactor facilitates the biological action. The reactor facilitates for the components to act and to remove the impurities from the wastewater. So those type of reactors are called as, there are different classes of these reactors. We have batch reactor, we have CSTR, we have plug flow reactor, arbitrary flow reactor, fluidized bed reactor, and membrane bioreactor. I will not explain all these reactors in my talk right now, but some of these reactors, which I will be showing you further in my slides, wherever it is available, I will be mentioning you the type of reactor and in which systems they are being used. I am having figures, so those places I will explain. Now, having these reactors in my hand, if I want to remove these impurities, as I mentioned earlier, I will be doing in a phase wise. So the first phase, which is called as preliminary treatment. Second phase called as primary treatment, secondary treatment, and tertiary treatment. So sometimes preliminary, primary together we call it as primary treatment. The purpose of the preliminary and primary treatment is to remove the large suspended organic solids. Particularly preliminary treatment objective is to remove all floating and as well as heavy settlable organic matter, heavy settlable inorganic matter, sorry. The preliminary, if I am using only preliminary specifically, that includes heavy settlable inorganic solids. Someone ask me questions. For example, sir, what is the problem in removing the all settlable solids together? When I am talking about all settlable solids, the settlable solids includes inorganic settlable, organic settlable, and inert settlable. Can somebody tell what is the problem in removing the whole settlable solids at a time? If you devise a mechanism or a reactor such that all the settlable matter, if it is removed together, is there any problem? Can somebody tell? Can somebody tell what is the problem in removing? If I remove all the impurities together, what could be the issue?
Participants can type in the chat
You
window
can
also.
chart. You can type in the chart window. I am happy to see this so that I did not feel that I am only talking. Shall I repeat my question? My question is, I am having impurities present in the wastewater. If those impurities, if I call them to be settlable matter comprising organic, inorganic, and inert matter together, if all impurities happen to be settlable and if I am able to remove them together, what happens? What is my problem? Okay.
Sir, according to you, the
But
settlable matters will be, according to you, the settlable matters will be in the sludge form, if I am right.
okay. Carry on.
Then we have to, according to that, I'm speaking about the application point of view. We can go for characterization of the sludge particles.
No, that's okay. No, here I think probably you did not understood my question. My question is, for example, I am having, see, you have sewage, you have impurities. In that impurities, I am targeting something called settlable solids. If I say such settlable solids, the settlable solids can be of organic nature, can be inorganic nature, can be inert. So if all three together, if I am settling, what is my problem? Now let me tell you the answer. If I am removing all the solids together, the problem is I can't dispose that easily. If I am able to settle only inert matter means like grit, sand. This grit sand does not impart any BOD. So I can simply dry up and simply dispose it off. No problem, no headache to me. This grit sand can be termed as inert, heavy suspended settlable solids. Whereas the biodegradable organic fraction of settlable solids, because some of these settlable solids which are organic in nature, they can be settled as well in a primary clarifier. Actually, I'll give you the answer. For example, think of grit chamber, think of primary clarifier. What are the capabilities of grit chamber? The grit chamber is capable of removing heavy, inorganic, inert, suspended, settlable solids. Whereas the primary clarifier is capable of removing light, organic, suspended, settlable particles. So this, whatever I am getting from a primary clarifier, I will not be able to dispose that like grit, because this organic matter or the sludge obtained from a primary clarifier is much more dangerous. I cannot simply leave that into environment. I have to take for further sludge digestion. Then only it meets to the criteria. Okay. And now coming to the another type, I told you inert. Basically inert, and another thing is inorganic. Inorganic, I need not worry too much because the fraction of inorganic solids present in a wastewater is very, very less. So those will not cause much problem to the environment. So the problem here it is, we have in the form of organic and lighter and inorganic inert and heavy. So inorganic inert heavy, I can simply dry up, I can easily dispose it off. If I mix both the things, then I cannot, even if I take this mixture for any sludge management, that becomes a huge challenge, because for sludge digestion we have different options. If this inorganic and inert happen to meet with the organic fraction, then sludge management becomes terribly difficult. Okay, hope I have answered that question. Still you have much more points. I will be uh, clearing your doubts in the due course of your action. Okay, now coming to this, so I told about preliminary and primary. Now coming to secondary. So preliminary and primary mostly we like to use physical forces, which I can call it to be physical unit operations or simply unit operations. So unit operations uses very less energy or less resources to remove the impurities. Now whatever I can easily remove, and also in sewage treatment plant, if I want to call something called quick wins. Quick wins means like with just what immediately I can do. That is called as primary treatment. The primary or preliminary treatment refers to quick wins. I can quickly what can be removed using say physical forces. I have done it, which does not consume much resources. I have done it. Now, after easy going, the remaining in the wastewater are the tough matter, which are very, very difficult to remove. Those are difficult to remove using physical forces. So the remaining are organic matter, which is present in dissolved or colloidal phase. So that can be removed using secondary treatment. So, and after imparting secondary treatment, once again, we will remove this bioflux which are formed. That is called as that the removal of bioflux also called as secondary only. After that, whatever left out, that is called as residual contaminants. Those will be checked for its quantity and quality. If the residues, whatever present after secondary treatment, if they happen to be within the permissible limits of disposable standards, we accept the wastewater, we accept the treated water and dispose it off. If the impurities happen to be crossing the permissible limits, example, the BOD of treated water should be less than 20 milligram per liter if you are leaving into water bottles. So if the BOD is less than 20 milligram per liter, we can say the tertiary treatment is not required. We can simply safely dispose of the treated wastewater into natural water bottles, or you can reuse it. If it is more than that, then I have to employ tertiary treatment such that the BOD is brought down less than 20 milligram per liter, such that it meets the disposal criteria. So these are my classification of sewage treatment. Now this particular screen shows whatever I talked so far, a combination of all these units. So here, this one you can see, this is called as this is basically called as influent. So this is basically a screen chamber where entire sewage enters in this treatment plant. So here we separate large floating solids like bottles, papers, logs, okay, this type of matter, which we can simply remove. Otherwise, this will go and choke the pipelines and choke the pumps and causes all inconveniences. So we'll remove them. Then that water, the wastewater enters into subsequent. This is called as grit and
Hello, Manish sir.
Yes, sir. I think speaker has lost the connection, sir.
Yes, yes. I think he log again.
Yes, sir.
He log in again.
Are you able to see now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Welcome back.
Okay. And once again, I am presenting.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, ma'am.
Are you able to see my screen now?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So this is basically your typical layout of sewage treatment plant. So you have influent here. This is called as collection well. You have screens. You have grit and sand removal. You have a primary clarifier. The effluent enters into bioreactors here, and whereas the sludge obtained from the primary clarifier here, it goes into the digester here. Whereas the clear effluent comes into this bioreactor. So these bioreactors are expected to remove the dissolved and colloidal organic matter, biodegradable fraction of organic matter. After removing this organic matter, that effluent enters into clarifier, where the clarifier expected to remove the bioflux formed in this bioreactor particularly, where the clear effluent is taken for disinfection, where the sludge is taken for sludge digestion. So this is a typical layout of wastewater treatment plant. Basically, this is whatever I am showing here is a conventional activated sludge treatment, which is a process in almost all urban centers. That is why I kept ASP for our easy understanding. Okay, but here in my future layouts, I'll be showing other things also. Instead of ASP, if I use other biological methods, what happens, how it works, I'll be showing everything later. Now coming to treatment efficiencies. Okay, so the preliminary treatment is expected to remove 10 to 30% of BOD, whereas if I am using preliminary primary together, it removes around 20 to 30% of BOD, the total BOD. Where the secondary is capable of removing 70 to 90% the total load. But if you look at it only secondary reactor, then whatever it is getting to the inlet, generally it is expected to the performance will be around more than 90% in most of the cases. The preliminary treatment of sewage, I have several options like screens, grid chamber, commutator, skimming tanks, filtration units, and flow measurement units. So most of the things I explained in my previous time in the beginning. So preliminary treatment of sewage, like if I am using, what impurity it can be removed, floating materials, which consumes approximately 5 to 10% of BOD, and the mechanism what is being used here, it is coarse and fine screens to remove these floating materials, and heavy settleable inorganic solids. I'll be using grit chambers, which talks about around 10 to 20%, and fats and greases can be removed using flotation skimming tanks. May not be a case in almost all domestic treatment plants, but in case if you are using particularly wastewater treatment from a kitchens, dining halls, or community halls, then this is the case. And primary treatment of sewage, basically this is expected to remove large suspended organic matter, so which we can do it aerobic systems, anaerobic systems. We can use plain sedimentation tanks. For example, if you take septic tank and MOF tanks, there is only one system. But in case of a conventional municipal wastewater treatment unit, what I have shown you earlier layout, there are several unit operations processes happening in different units. But whereas septic tank and MOF tanks, not much units present there, very simple construction, which is capable of removing various impurities at different stages within the physical unit. So that is why these septic tanks, MOF tanks are also mentioned here. Now coming to secondary treatment of sewage, this basically expected to remove fine suspended solids and dissolved organic matter of biodegradable in nature. So majorly we employ either activated sludge process, and trickling filter is a voltage system. Now it is almost all obsolete. Nobody is using it because of its operational problems and ponding problems basically. So people are going for activated sludge process or oxidation ponds. These two are combination are being used. The activated sludge process, there are so many modifications to the ASP. I will be discussing all these modifications in my next course of lecture. And tertiary treatment of sewage, we have chemical clarification, We have filtration, adsorption, disinfection, nitrogen removal, phosphorus removal, and demineralization. All these processes are self-explanatory. Now go back to this summary sheet which talks about impurity and what are the possibilities, like what are the different methods and mechanisms which we are having in our hand, using which we can remove these contaminants. For example, I have suspended solids. So these four are my choices. I can use plain sedimentation or without coagulation. I can use screening, combination, flotation, filtration. How many of them I use it? That depends on the range and scale of impurities, and as well as money available, capital cost, operational cost, what is my total layout of treatment plant, how much area I am having, what is the treated water quality. Accordingly, I use either one or combination of these units to remove these impurities. Okay, so that is the summary of my first part of lecture. Okay, now I'll just stop here for a while for any questions you have. Then if you don't have any questions, then we'll go to the next part. Any questions so far? Audience, any questions from my first part? As I took a lot of time to explain minute things in the beginning part, my rest of the talk, I'll go little fast. I'll not repeat most of the things, but now I'll show most of the figures, what are the different unit operations and processes, their usage and sustainability concept in my subsequent lecture. Any questions so far?
Hello, sir.
Please.
So regarding flow equalization, can you please?
Yes. What is your problem regarding flow equalization? What is your question?
Under the physical unit operations, the flow equalization.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
So it's intended for basically. For
Actually, if you look at it, how sewage is produced in a day, it is not uniform. Particularly between morning 6 to 9, we produce the large amount of sewage. Whatever we are producing, 3 hours accounts for the maximum production. Evening also, like 6 to 8, we produce maximum amount of sewage. But our sewage treatment plant we design generally for 24 hours operation. So if you allow entire sewage directly to reach to the plant without any cushioning, so certain time that units are subjected to high flow, so causing some of the units not functioning properly. So we need to have certain mechanism where the flow is stored and we pump from them to the remaining units in a constant manner. So that is why we need to have flow equalization. Hope I answered your question. Dakshayani, all right?
Yes, sir. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yeah, commutators. Basically, commutators was a phenomena olden days, because now we are having screens, better screens, which will remove all the large floating objects. So now no more commutators are used. But if you have to use commutators, basically to protect the pumps, okay? At the inlet of a pump, we use commutator so that it grinds and will not allow the pump to be getting choked. It is used as a preliminary treatment only. I will show you a commutator how it look like in my following slides. A figure will be shown to you. Any other questions? Okay. Now we will go to next phase of my talk. Now I have shown you earlier, but the typical layout. Now I will be showing the same layout I'll revisiting the layout, showing the different unit operations and processes. What is possible for, say for example, as I am talking to you, most of the participants from Bengaluru. Say for example, you want to design a system for Bengaluru. We want to design a system for Tumkur, because Bengaluru I am having some affinity because I worked in 2003, 2004, 2 years I worked in Bengaluru Ramaya College, MSRT I worked for 2 years. Okay, so if you want to design for say Tumkur, or maybe say for example Shabad, Yadgiri, some like small towns, or maybe you go to a small village with 20,000 population, 10,000 population. If you want to design systems which are possible, feasible, and how to do it. Okay. So if you look at it, my screen now currently, the top what I am mentioning here. So this top whatever I mentioned here, these are called as unit operations or processes. So those I shown here in the box as how sewage moves from one unit to another unit. Now going forward, now I can see. So sewage enters from raw sewage to screens. Here we remove large floating bodies, then enters into grit. I remove heavy suspended settleable matter, grit matter, and then it will remove lighter organic material. It will remove lighter organic material, but which is in the form of dissolved and colloidal is removed. Now I will be getting secondary clarifier, which will remove the bioflux produced in the reactor. Now the clear effluent is called as treated sewage, which I will be importing disinfection and then leaving into water bodies. Now the sludge obtained from secondary sewage, secondary clarifier is taken and given to biological reactor. Why? Because the sludge obtained in the secondary clarifier is nothing but active microorganisms, or nothing but trained microorganisms. So these microorganisms are already having enough training to remove the carbonaceous organic matter. So we don't want to simply lose them. So we want to increase its population into the biological reactor, which is refers to M. Actually, there is something called F by M ratio. F means food, M means microorganisms. So food means the colloidal or biodegradable, colloidal or dissolved biodegradable organic matter refers to food, whereas the microorganisms which are present in the reactor refers to M. So for a given quantity of food, if I am maintaining enough number of microorganisms, my work can be done much quicker. That's why we recycle the sludge. And after recycling a fraction, a little will be excess. Okay. So the excess sludge, whatever I am having clarified, is taken to anaerobic digester, and sludge from this primary sedimentation tank is also taken to anaerobic digester. So the purpose of this anaerobic digester is to fix the carbon content, whatever it is present, and this anaerobic digester over a period of time produces this methane plus CO2, which is called as biogas. And after getting energy, whatever after its time of digestion, so whatever I'll be separating the liquid and solids once again, the liquid is taken given to the primary, like at the beginning of treatment plant, whereas the solids or digested sludge is taken for dewatering, and finally we can, after dewatering we can dry and we can use as a soil manure. So till here we call it as primary since beginning, and after that it is called as secondary treatment. Now coming to this process, if I look at it, byproducts, what and all byproducts produced from each stage. From screen I get something called screenings. From grit chamber I get something called grits. From primary sedimentation tank I get primary sludge. Secondary sedimentation tank I get secondary sludge. So these are my captions. Okay. So this is the process flow sheet of conventional sewage treatment plant. Hope it is clear. Any questions here? So this is called as conventional sewage treatment plant. Okay. So this is a typical system which can be applied in any major urban agglomerations. The moment we are moving from urban to semi-urban, where people's paying capacity is best, this is the system. If people's paying capacity is less, or land is available cheaper, or energy is not continuously available, because these systems, the performance depends on mostly an biological reactor, because here we have to supply 24 hours of oxygen. So 24 hours of oxygen means 24 hours of electricity, which is a dream now. But olden days, 10 years back, India, even metros cannot have the freedom of having 24 hours power. Now we are blessed with 24 hours power. At least 20 years back, when I did my MTech, there was no such power, 20 hours of power, sorry, no, continuous electricity. So that time we had to think of lot of options, but now urban systems are blessed with continuous electricity. So these systems are having no problem. But in the options of continuous power, then we have to think of alternate solutions, something like, now these are called as conventional. Now from conventional to I'm moving to low cost. Everything same, but instead of having so much pre-treatment, I'll have simply screens followed by something called oxidation ditch and then SST, treated sewage. Same thing will be happening. So everything else same. This is called as low cost treatment systems. What is an oxidation ditch? How it look like? I'll show a figure later. I'm having an excellent figure. I'll show you. Another option, if we don't want oxidation ditch, we can go for aerated lagoons. Okay. Here also I am having a figure for that. I'll show you. This is of aerated lagoon. I can have a waste ablation pond doing the same system. Now you can ask me a question. So what is the difference between this aerated lagoon and waste ablation pond? So aerated lagoon will have a additional aeration device attached to a pond. If that additional aeration device is removed, such a system is called as waste ablation pond. So this waste ablation ponds itself, there are different types. There are aerobic ponds, anoxic ponds, anaerobic ponds. Now, all these methods so far, low cost methods or whatever I discussed conventional, they work on the principle of aerobic mechanisms. Now, if I want to talk about anaerobic, these anaerobic filters, anaerobic rotating biological contractors, fluidized submerged bed, media anaerobic contractor, upflow anaerobic sludge blanket reactor. This is the popular various anaerobic reactors. So one good thing is anaerobic reactors is they are capable of generating energy. That means they are able to convert the long carbon chains into CH4 plus CO2, which is called as biogas, that can be used for various purposes. Okay? Whereas aerobic systems, they don't yield energy, or they also produce energy, but the energy is in the form of heat, which we will not be able to remove, which will not be able to recover the heat. Very less amount of heat is being produced that we will not be able to recover. So aerobic systems requires less footprint area. Anaerobic systems requires more footprint area. Aerobic systems requires more additional energy, whereas anaerobic systems requires less additional energy. So basically anaerobic systems requires very little energy. They are capable of producing more energy, but the only problem is anaerobic systems, it requires more capital cost. Huge reactors are required because residence time is much higher. Whereas aerobic systems, as we are using more energy in the to supply oxygen, the treatment process is much faster. So it requires less footprint. As we are accelerating the process, aerobic systems also produces large amount of sludge. Whereas anaerobic systems are much slower, they produces less amount of sludge. So these are the differences between aerobic and anaerobic systems.
Basic things of values, morals, ethics.
Now coming to this expected efficiencies, okay, this is self-explanatory. You can just go through it.
The types of the values. Classification.
Now I am talking about the sustainability as now having understood about the fundamentals of wastewater treatment so far. Now let us look at it. What are the different sustainability aspects of this wastewater treatment systems? Let it be aerobic, anaerobic. How you make the system to be sustainable? What are the different factors one need to consider?
Of course, essence of
When I say
life,
sustainability, here wastewater treatment, that refers
building
to
blocks to form a structure.
I request Shivaraj Tegi to
Here
mute.
positive or negative value, again it depends on the individual perception. Adding one negative value may cancel your two.
You can proceed, sir.
Yeah.
I removed him.
Okay. So the sustainability refers to development and application of products or equipments and systems, whatever you use it, such that to conserve the environment and resources, minimizing and reducing the negative impacts, which we can call also called as green technologies. Now let us look at it. What factors I do consider to make the treatment system to be sustainable? So these are the different factors. So which I can call to be indicators. One is economic indicator, like how much capital cost it considers. It requires for a system to be implemented. What are the operation management costs and what is the user cost? And coming to environmental indicators, how much energy does the system require, and what is the efficiency, removal efficiency of these various impurities present in the wastewater, and what is the reuse potential of treated water generated from this particular treatment system, and what is the cultural acceptance as a part of societal indicators, and whether it is capable of providing any new job opportunities, and what is that its this treatment system's capability in improving the local environment. Okay, all these factors called as sustainability indicators, based on which we can classify the existing system into in a ranking, and then we choose an appropriate system with reference to any particular area while deciding what type of treatments layout can be used. So, and what are the different advantages? Like by following the sustainability, what we really gain, because we get less effluents that are to be discharged, lesser effluents and the less hazardous, basically less hazardous in terms of quantity and as well as quality also that is to be discharged. And these processes happen to be environmental friendly because we are having environmental indicators, consuming less energy, less resources, and causing less environmental nuisance, and retains high quality of environment. Okay. Today you must have seen, because of COVID, when there was lockdown, we can see that the natural systems happen to be healing everywhere in the globe. Okay, particularly the reduction of greenhouse gases and so on. Okay. Now, these are some of the design factors. Does not fall part of my lecture here, but still I kept some values here. Now coming to preliminary treatment of sewage, I am having a screening which I already explained all these things. Now let me show you the different types of screens. This is an example of screens, how it look like. So these are some of the photos I have taken from a treatment plants in Hyderabad. So this is called as coarse screen. So this is a coarse screen. So this is a photo I taken from a Tamil Nadu, Chennai plant, Coimbatore sewage treatment plant, motorized plant. This is a coarse screen, whereas this is a fine screen, motorized screen. So once again, this is a coarse screen from Hyderabad, Ambarpet treatment plant. So this is how we remove the debris and keep in a platform. So vehicle comes here. So they load all this material onto the vehicle from this place. So this is a mechanical fine screen, motorized fine screen, which moves automatically. So this is a manual fine screen, like one can remove the impurities and keep it here. From here it will be lifted and loaded to the garage. And if at all anybody want to design a screen, these are the different stages and steps in the design of the screen. And commutator, somebody was asking what is a commutator. So this is a commutator. You have a large floating particles. So these floating particles size can be reduced big particle was reduced into small particles using a commutator. And we have a grit removal systems. I told you grit is basically to removal of heavy settlable suspended particles, inert particles, because this grit can interfere with the moving parts of treatment plant. These are the various design considerations. This is a procedure, design procedure for this grit chamber. These are called as velocity control devices, which are fixed to the end of this entire thing is grit chamber, whereas whatever we are fitting to the end, this is called as velocity control devices. Velocity control come flow measurement. You can see outlet, but when the sewage comes, we can see this marking. This marking will tell what is a flow at that particular time. So timely we can record how much sewage is entering into treatment plant. So this is another way of recording the sewage using a partial flow. So here I have a online sensor. So this will keep on taking the measurements. It will measure always the height of sewage in a proportional weir. So as we know the head and the weir at the throat level, we can tell, we can calibrate that, we'll understand how much sewage flow which is entering into the plant. So this flow equation, as I mentioned here, controlling hydraulic velocity flow rate to the wastewater treatment system. And settling, basically the primary clarifier is to remove the organic load under the secondary treatment, which removes all the lighter organic material. These are design considerations, and this is the design procedure, and this is a typical view of primary clarifier. Okay, it will have a raking mechanism towards the bottom, which is capable of removing the settled solids to the bottom of the reactor, which can be taken to a sludge hopper, and it can be taken for sludge management mechanism. This is the second configuration of the primary clarifier, how it look like. So I was talking about aerobic digestion. What happens exactly in aerobic digestion? So we have an organic matter. With this, basically, so aerobic digestion will have 3 stages. I would say these 3 are not independent. They happen simultaneously. The first stage we call it as oxidation. In oxidation stage, what happens? Organic matter is oxidized by the bacteria in the oxygen presence to CO2, H2O and ammonia, and little energy is produced in aerobic systems also. That energy is in the form of heat energy that is not recoverable. That is the problem with the aerobic digestion. And some of the energy produced here will be utilized by this bacteria in the presence of oxygen. Using organic matter, it produces a new microbial cell tissue. This particular process is called as cell synthesis. That is nothing but generation of new microorganisms in a process. Next thing is endogenous respiration, because this becomes practice in a system when the available food, particularly this organic matter, that is becoming limiting. When the food available in the wastewater that becomes shortage, then what happens is the living cells will start eating the fellow weak living cells. That is called as endogenous respiration. So some of the strong microorganisms will try to eat the weaker microorganisms. That is called as endogenous respiration. So here what happens is the cell tissues are oxidized and produces CO2 plus ammonia plus 2H2. So these are the various steps in aerobic digestion. This is an example of activated sludge process, how the plant figure looks like. So this is a clarifier to ASP. So these are different elements and key considerations in activated sludge process, which is out of purview of this lecture. So these are various modifications to activated sludge process. Instead of giving aeration, same throughout the reactor, we can give in a different phases. That is called as capillary aeration, step aeration, and contact stabilization. Because contact stabilization means before aerating, so mix that entire wastewater along with the rich biosolids mechanism. Just leave it for some time. That itself will remove lot of organic matter without even supplying oxygen. That is called as contact stabilization, which will remove some of this, organic matter without using oxygen. That is saving of energy. So external aeration, this is basically used if you don't want to use any, tertiary treatment. You can use this external aeration because in a typical ASP you have aeration period of 4 to 6 hours, whereas external aeration it can go to 12 to 18 hours for removing some of the slowly degrading material. And next is complete mixed reactors is a improvement of ASP. So this is some of the figures which I shown you, like contact stabilization, how it works, and all these things. So this is a modification of ASP oxidation ditch, as I told you earlier. So here you can see this oxidation ditch will have 3 to 4 meters deep tank. This type of annular areas, these are called as rotors. So these rotors, when you operate, sewage will be moving in one direction. These not only will remove the carbonaceous organic matter, these oxidation ditches are capable of removing even nutrients also. Nitrogenous organic matter is also capable of removing. Okay, so this is an improved version of ASP, but it requires a larger fruit area, larger footprint area. So this is a comparison of different systems, as I mentioned earlier. Next is trickling filter. So here the sewage is sprinkled on a top of a granular media filter, where the media is allowed to aerate through natural air, or sometimes if natural air is not possible, we can also pump the air. This is artificial air. So by by giving more air here, when sewage moves downwards, it interacts, it actually settles onto the media, it forms a slime layer, and using that layer, it can fixes the organic matter present in the wastewater. That way, this trickling filter works. So these are oxidation ponds, which are also called as waste ablation ponds. So these oxidation ponds can be labeled as aerobic, anoxic, anaerobic. If the depth is less than 1 meter, we call it as aerobic pond. Depth is up to 1.5 meters, we call it as anoxic pond. Like 1 to 1.5 zone is called as anoxic. If it is more than 1.5, 2 meters, we call it as anaerobic ponds. So the top layer will act as aerobic, 1 to 1.5 will act as anaerobic, and after 1.5 it acts as an anaerobic pond. And these are oxidation ponds, a real-time photograph taken from a Hyderabad Amberpad treatment plant, which one can see how neatly it is maintained. Same waste ablation ponds, if it is having proper lining and with artificial aeration mechanism, those are called as aerated lagoons. So this is a field view of aerated lagoons. Okay, if you just don't operate this aerators, this is called as waste ablation pond. If you operate this, these are called as lagoons. The another configuration is so many people must be anxious, because if you want to set up any of these solutions, whatever I talked so far, particularly for a community. For example, if somebody feels they want to treat the wastewater in an apartment, in a community, so 20 houses, 100 houses are there, if they want to just treat it. So then all the systems, whatever I mentioned earlier, may not be practically possible, because those cannot be as practiced as a decentralized. Those are all centralized options. But this rotating biological content is a decentralized options. Even we can have this type of systems installed for an apartment, or which is a new type of living standards, where we, instead of depending more on municipality for supplying fresh water for all our secondary purposes, we can install such a small scale units in our apartment for treating the wastewater, and reuse that wastewater as a dual line, as for flushing in our houses, for gardening in our apartment, and for other uses like car washing, floor cleaning. All these things can be used. This is a closer view of rotating biological contact. And next thing is community level. For example, if you go to any rural villages, small towns or small villages, 10,000, 20,000 population, where they will not have much money to pay in terms of taxes. So this, for those people, we can design this type of constructed wetlands, where we can grow some selected vegetation by having this type of configuration. You can see another plant photograph. This is a real look of a constructed wetland, which you can see So these type of treatment systems does not require any energy, and the water which is coming out of this system can be used for irrigation. You can see any villages will have agricultural field next to it. The treated water can be used for irrigation, whereas the vegetation water it is grown that can be periodically removed and it can be used as a feed, or it can be composted and once again used as a manure for the system. Next is anaerobic. So all systems what are I shown, those are all basically aerobic digestion. Now coming to anaerobic digestion, what happens is organic matter in the absence of oxygen, different microorganisms convert this organic matter into something called methane plus CO2. The mixture is called as biogas. So there are different systems available like anaerobic ponds, septic tanks, IMAF tanks, standard rate anaerobic digesters, anaerobic contact process, filters, USB, fluidized bed reactors, as I mentioned earlier. So these are anaerobic pond, same waste ablation pond, the depth is much higher, that's all. There is the only difference between waste anaerobic, there is a class of waste ablation pond. And septic tank, it requires no introduction, which is there in every house, almost all. Where there is no conventional municipality sewer available, every house they used to follow this type of systems. IMAF tanks, which were the older versions of the septic tanks, and standard rate anaerobic digesters and high rate anaerobic. Standard rate anaerobic digesters, there is no mixing, so very less energy is used. But in case of high rate, we use mixed different batches of this waste which is being fed, thereby improving the microbial activity, thereby food is reaching to all microorganisms in a much effective manner. That is called as high rate anaerobic digesters. Next is anaerobic contact process, which is very similar to contact stabilization in case of aerobic process, very similar to that. So this is a modified version of ASP. Instead of supplying aeration, air, we allow it to react, so thereby producing biogas. That is called as anaerobic contact process. Anaerobic filter is an improved version of anaerobic contact process, where there are different filter units which will facilitate the effective interaction between the food and microorganisms. So thereby we can have this organic matter being removed. And fluidized bed reactor is a type of reactor. Example for this USB reactor, whatever which sludge blanket we are maintaining to the bottom of the reactor, the sludge is expanded when you allow the flow of this wastewater, and when it expands, the micro granules is exposed to the high concentration. The high concentration micro granules are exposed to their the wastewater impurities present in the wastewater. The the organic matter can be quickly fixed. That is called as fluidized bed reactor. Now, from all these systems, what we can conclude are aerobic systems requires less energy. It requires more energy to produce, to operate, and literally the energy produced in aerobic systems cannot be tapped, and it also requires very smaller footprint. Whereas anaerobic systems requires very less energy to operate, but they are capable of producing more energy, and they also produce very less amount of sludge. And these sustainable systems to make use of optimal resources in terms of energy usage, or in terms of good quality of effluent that is produced, so that they can be used better, and as well as they shall be environmental friendly. So these are the conclusions, and now the floor is open for discussion.
Thank you, sir, for your nice presentation.
Yeah.
Dear all, you can post the questions in the chat window for the queries.
So, technique available for seawater converted to drinking water, one will Gulf countries would have. So, seawater, if you want to convert to drinking water, only thing is reverse osmosis, okay? Because salts are something like soluble, and they require much more partial pressure to remove them. So it have better bonding with water. That's why you can't easily remove of any of these biological measures. So you have to use reverse osmosis. That is the only method which can remove the seawater. Yeah, converting seawater into drinking water is possible. Reverse osmosis.
participants can float queries in the chat window.
So treated water can be used for treated water. Why you want to use treated water for generation of electricity? Treated water can be used for reuse because you are getting 1 million liters of day. For example, Hyderabad Amber plant, they get around 350. The plant capacity is 350 MLD. 350 MLD. If you want to produce electricity, how will you produce? Okay, it is literally impossible to produce electricity from treated water. Yes, any more questions?
Dear participants, you can float your queries in the chat window. For
Dr. Velamani will wait for another 2 minutes. If anybody
Yes,
asks
sir.
any questions, we will
yes,
answer.
sir.
Okay. So if you have any more questions, I am writing my mail ID, so you can always interact. You can write to me. You can write to me. I'm happy to answer these questions based on my session. So now NIT Warangal also offers part-time PhD. So if anybody or any one of you interested to work in wastewater treatment and waste management, if they want to do part-time PhD, that is possible. They can contact me. I can help them in choosing the topic and as well as completion of their PhD. If anybody interested, they can contact me. The current notification is over. Next notification will come somewhere in the month of October, November. So please always look for NIT Warangal website. So once it comes notification, you can contact me and apply parallel. Yes, full-time PhD is also available, but right now full-time PhD already date is over, so one can apply for full-time. Same notification, same time it will come. Full-time PhD is still better. You'll get around 31,000 fellowship first 2 years, and after that fellowship, I think it will be 35,000 plus HRA. These are all MHRD fellowships. That is also possible. Every year, NIT Warangal gives around civil department itself. We take around 15 to 20 candidates, so you can apply. So I'll share the PPT with organizers, and they will cross-share with the remaining people. So there is some copyrighted material. After removing the copyrighted material, I'll share the PPT because nowadays copyright becomes a biggest problem. So some of the figures, they need not have a valid gate score. You can read the guidelines. Okay, if you can read the guidelines, now the revised guidelines, you need not have a valid gate score. But you have to. Sometimes we may have to clear the exam. Sometimes there may be exam. Okay. PhD qualification exam will be there, and those who clear the qualification exam are only eligible for interview. That's why that becomes a challenge. Okay, Dr. Velamani.
Yes, sir.
I think now it's time, huh? It's time to
Yes,
end.
sir. Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
sir. It's time to conclude. I thank Dr. Venkateshwara Rao for his nice presentation on wastewater treatment, and for his patience in all over the session by looking all over the chat window for taking query session also. So thank you very much, sir. And I also thank all the participants who participated actively. And I wish to inform that the feedback session regarding the feedback form regarding this session will be posted you very shortly in our WhatsApp group for this FDP. So thank you very much for your nice presentation, sir. Thank you once again.
Dr. Velumani, I request you to share the feedback once you receive after getting everything, just to, so that that will be useful to me also. Okay?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Velumani.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm ending my session. Thank you. Okay?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Manish, sir. Manish, sir.